I'm Craig Ray with Keystone Oil Fabrication.
Keystone Oil Fabrication. Let's talk a little bit about what your services are so we can get into the meat of the interview. So, what do you guys do down there?
Jason, we do a lot of things now. We started out in 2011, January 2011, and strictly building Sand Kings. Sand Kings, Sand Hulks, Sand Chiefs, Mountain Movers, multiple names for them. But we put a little business plan together in 2011 to build our first one in April and build a total of 40 for the year. And as you know, or likely know, Sand King's a key component of the frac fleet on site. And our business plan was to build 40. That was in January. Before we built our first one, we increased that business plan to 60, and by the end of the year, we'd built 83. So basically, we went from zero revenue to 22 million in year one with no debt, and put 83 units in the field. So that was our bread and butter. I mean, we were a one-horse operator, and we realized that we needed to diversify over time, and sooner would be better. So in 2012, we added a structural steel component for our business, and since 2012, we've continued to add components of our business all the way even to now, and perhaps even more so right now. We're having to diversify more so today than we ever have had previously, just due to the nature of the market. But I can tell you today, we don't build any Sand Kings. Again, as you probably likely know, that's a very antiquated piece of equipment. You can't give them away. I've got 6 out here in my yard. I'm looking out my window, looking at them right now. Can't give them away for $1,000 a piece or in that vicinity. And they're still good pieces of equipment that still run. But sand silos have become the rage, or sand box. Their concept took off, and
How quickly did that change, if I may ask? Sorry to interrupt. It's so interesting how things can become a dinosaur or a TV repairman or, a VHS, if you will. How quickly did the Sand King? I mean, it was your big bread and butter. How quickly did that go away?
I mean, it felt like it was a year in
that
transition.
Quick.
When OSHA came out and said that they wanted to decrease acceptable levels of respirable dust, silica dust, that put the onus on the industry to make changes, because a Sand King, you got pneumatic trailers that are blowing into a Sand King, creates a bunch of dust in the marketplace or on the frac side, which is bad to breathe. I think everybody would agree with that, and everybody knows that. So the thought was the industry had to build something different. We built silos. We went to a silo concept. The problem with our concept is that we utilize cranes. We had a steel erection background or structural steel background. We understand cranes. We use cranes on a regular basis. We thought that was the safest way to erect silos on a frac site location. But we had some competitors that figured a better way to do that, where they didn't have to have cranes, and the industry was reluctant to use a crane. So our concept was not the winner overall. But it did seem, within a 12-month period, man, technology changed and the concept changed, and silos caught on. And then shortly, I guess a couple years after that, when the box concept really got to moving. I mean, there were a lot of folks building boxes or box concepts. But,
I guess I'm not familiar with the advantage of a box over a silo. Do you have like a layman's version of the difference between the two and why one would be more, I guess, advantageous than the other?
Personally, I don't prefer a box. If I was a frac site operator or user of the concept, I don't like the box concept. I think the boxes jam up. I think you got too much heavy equipment on site moving backwards and forwards, where manpower gets crushed or could get crushed. There's more issues. You got to have a bigger footprint for the box concept. Silos, I like them, even though we're not making them. They're mechanically very friendly. It's a gravity feed. The dust collection or the dust collector concept has been mastered sufficiently to where it meets OSHA requirements, and they take a smaller footprint on location. So I'm not a fan of the box concept. I'm still a silo guy myself, but I'm not having to make that call, and we're not manufacturing either. So take that for what it's worth.
Okay. Yeah, curious about that, just how some of those transitional things work. Because, I mean, you're talking about micro niches within industry at this point.
Yes, exactly.
You know, and I get it sometimes it's preference, but sometimes, you know, sometimes the industry, and I've been told this by quite a few CEOs at conferences, and a lot of them have said it even on record if people want to go back into the old database and listen to some of the old interviews, but they always warned of the energy industry's herd mentality. You know, how it seems like they just, as a herd, they go towards things. And he said sometimes, you know, you don't always hit 100%. You don't always bat 1,000. So you got to be careful about sometimes having herd mentality towards things just because it's cool or it's popular, et cetera. And that's what your example kind of reminded me of that. So I was curious if there was just some reason behind it. But anyway, so I don't know if you want to comment on herd mentality or not, but.
Well, I agree completely with the herd mentality, and you see that within our industry quite a bit. And I would not disagree one iota that proppant, delivery, conveyance, and storage systems are or have proven to be very much operating by a herd mentality. So it's prevalent.
Let's talk a little bit about shut-ins, if you don't mind. That, of course, is a huge topic right now that's going, whether it's getting CARES, Corona money, or whether it's impacting people on a level that they've never seen before, and whether it's really starting to show a lot of politicians that, boy, the oil and gas industry goes well beyond the term mining. You know, we got a lot of truckers that are basically oil and gas people, and without a oil and gas well to operate, that affects that specific trucking company, for example, you know, frac sand companies, if you will. How are you guys being affected by the shut-ins? Have you guys felt that pinch, that impact at all?
Well, it's unprecedented, Jason. That goes without saying, that the market has had such a detrimental effect. I mean, the oil patch was already slowing down. Then you layered on COVID-19. You've got an election year that comes into play. All those things amount to a perfect storm for our industry, for our oil field industry. And, I mean, that's got some of the best people I know have been furloughed or laid off or put out of business. Guys that I thought would never go away. Men that I'd want to have in my foxhole anytime I'd go to battle. We've had to lay off. We're a smaller company with we got up to about 145 folks or so. We've laid off 22. And every one of those men were good men. And the shut-ins, it's having a ripple effect. And politicians don't understand that. Most people, the average citizen, doesn't understand that. But I saw something online the other day that showed the impact, or showed everything that oil products or oil and gas type products have an influence in. And you can't hardly go through the supermarket. You can't go through the grocery or the Home Depot. You can't go through a shop or down the road without impact from the oil and gas industry. It's that critical to how we live and what we do.
We've been saying for a while it's going to take a long time, I know my lifetime, before they can even wean out of fossil fuels. I mean, we're talking 93, 96% of things we use as part of our daily lifestyle have petroleum products, from the toothpaste to the toothbrush to the petroleum that gets it there. So, I mean,
right.
So many different, avenues that it's used in. And I get it. And the industry has slowly taken care of itself, like it has over the last, from, like I always say, we go from hay to wood to whale oil to coal to oil to natural gas. I mean, we've naturally decreased our carbon molecules over time. That's a natural progressive evolution that mankind has taken. This new crash course to insanity, that's all new in the last 10 years. I guess since that Al Gore movie came out is really when I call it the existential anxiety, where
yes.
they can, especially in kids, kids who are searching for their place in the world, the environment is a very easy thing to connect with. I mean, it's almost like a religious experience. It's I call it the cult of environmentalism, because they're using it almost like a religion, to where it's getting people to, I don't know, it's a different deal, and it's not used in a good way, I think. Anyway, sorry, you got me going. I haven't talked about this in a while, so you kind of put a quarter in me.
I got you up on your soapbox, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Well, it's impacted the industry, I mean, and honestly, before 2020 came, our marketing kit was ready for anything. And the reason for that was we saw what the 16-year-old girl was doing to the industry, with banks changing their ESG formulation, if you will, to get financing. And you've got Colorado, we call it regulations gone wild there. And so, and then you impact in the virus, that was a lot, and then of course you got OPEC and everything. So the energy industry went through a lot, and we say ready for anything. We didn't really mean it like that, but boy, you almost had to be prepared. And from what it sounds like, your company, it's gone through some things, but you've been able to diversify yourself in the past, and it sounds like that's the direction you're doing now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. 2018 was a great year, and that was predominantly an oil field year for us. I mean, our parent company is Keystone Synergy. Keystone Oil Fabrication is one of the LLCs that basically is captured by Keystone Synergy. But we have our Keystone Steel Services, Keystone Truck and Equipment, Keystone Mobile or Crane Services. Got a variety of entities that hang off the Keystone Synergy brand. But looking back to 18, that was a great year for the oil patch for us. And then in 19, we had our best year ever, at least on the top line. And within that year, we had 3 new initiatives. One didn't go so well, and we've closed that down already. One is kind of on the fence line right now, Keystone Truck and Equipment. We've got a mobile maintenance group that's coming out of that, and they're basically at break even. And then our Crane Services has just skyrocketed. Crane Services, that's got us into the construction market as well as oil field market. That's got us into the utility market, transmission and delivery units, anything that had a crane in it, small crane, knuckle booms, those kind of things. And now here in 2020, it's actually a real struggle. Our revenue is not going to be anywhere near what they were in 2019. But we've still had, I like to call it being opportunistic. We've got big things and little things coming out. We've got a storm shelter concept that is being approved or being tested right now. We'll actually sell that to the major home builders. It's just an outcropping of what we do with our facility, our fabrication facility as it is. We've got a scoreboard concept that we're working with another one of our vendors, and he brought that to us. And I think that's going to be a big plus in the 5-state area from where we're located here in Texas. We've got a container concept that we're getting ready to kick off. That would be for government contracts or some Fortune 100 type folks. Those are longer term contracts too, smaller margin, but one of our sales guys got us in the door there, and it's metal, it's welding, it makes sense as what we do. Waste containers is a new concept for us that we'll kick off here in the second half of the year. And then we actually have a small acquisition target that we're eyeballing, not too far away, not too far down the road from us. So we've got plenty to do here in 2020. It's just been a lot tighter, a lot harder to do. And legitimately, it's been a struggle. And it's going to be a struggle for the rest of the year, I think. But
it's interesting, too, because, this is kind of some real talk. And the part that I like about it is, as I'm taking notes here, is people cringe when they hear the word struggle. And a lot of times people don't like saying that word because a lot of times reality is people don't want to help people that are in trouble. They want to figure in business, they want to figure out how they can, piggyback off their success, if you will. The part that I liked about what you did is you said, yeah, it's been a struggle. We're trying to figure out how to make $5 out of $2 and how we're trying to figure out how to get 1.5 employees out of half an employee and things like that. And those are normal. But you basically said you identified the opportunities. So yeah, it's been a struggle, but we've identified the opportunities, and now we're going to go after those identified opportunities. That's the missing element I think a lot of people are missing in today's current COVID economy, if you will.
Yes. Yeah, you can't just play one. You know, it's great to be a rifle shot. I went to grad school, went to undergrad and business school, and the school of thought at the time was to be the very best at what you do and the one thing. Well, if we were just one thing, if we were just in the oil field right now, we would drive whether we're right. And we've got to be more of a shotgun approach. For a company our size, we've got to be diversified and count on some different industries and different markets to be able to be sustainable, keep our key intelligence together, our workforce together, so that when the oil patch does return, we're able to seize those opportunities and be ready when the gate opens. And that's really what we're trying to do: keep our core competencies in-house and keep our people together the best we can.
Kind of wrapping up here, final thoughts. Craig Ray's our guest, Keystone Oil Fabrication, as well as several other companies as well. Just kind of, I like to give people last word. That way the question's not framed by me. And, you know, if there's something we missed, something we want to reiterate, you know, obviously make sure you plug your business, that sort of thing. Appreciate you coming on to give us an update what's going on down there. Now, you're out of Texas, right? You mentioned out of Texas?
We're in Rome, Texas, which is about 20 miles north of Fort Worth.
Okay, and you pretty much operate the 5-state area you mentioned?
Well, we've got equipment in all the basins, in all the oil field basins.
Oh.
Our structural steel would be covering here in Texas primarily. Our mobile maintenance would cover all of Texas, and our crane services would go about a 5-state. We'd get into Oklahoma, Louisiana, even in New Mexico if need be.
Sure.
And then our waste concept, that'll go all over. That'll go nationwide.
Okay, that'll just go from play to play. Okay.
Yep.
Final thoughts then. You know, I mean, what do you think of the outlook? I guess as far as industry and how you guys are going to tackle the next half.
Well, that's a great question, and I'd say that my dad was an independent geologist for 60 years, and he saw plenty of good years and plenty of bad. And as a kid growing up in that household, I never went without. We never went without. And the patch always comes back. I've seen it over and over again. And the good news is, I believe it will return again. And we're going to capture our piece of that market when it does come back. We're going to be ready for it. And it's counting on great people. We've got an A-plus team, and we've been over backwards to be able to keep that team together. And I've got a partner in the business, Larry Chris and I. We couldn't do anything what we do without our team. And we're so grateful for their willingness to apply their talents and skills and resources to what we call Keystone. So we're going to keep investing in our people, believing in our people, and when things do come back, it'll be our people that get us there.